Okay. So I'm super thrilled to introduce you to Susan Guthrie. She has done a bunch of amazing things, worked in ADR as a lawyer mediator, and certainly as you'd read in the bio, she's a trailblazer, and once again is a trailblazer in her field, but also helping people like us use the AI to the best advantage we can. So take it away, Susan.
Thank you. All right. So if I love to see people, I'm working off of two screens. So if anyone, I see three of you, if anyone else wants to put on their camera, I always appreciate that because I try to actually have some conversation with you and sort of see whether what I'm saying is of interest at all. So the nods and things like that always matter a lot to me. Thank you very much. It's always just lovely to see all of your faces. So I am working off of, I had a little trouble with my second screen today, so I'm going to work off of two laptops. So if you see me looking down, it's just I'm looking at my second laptop that I'm going to share my screen from. So
Oh,
let's get that
temperature. Okay.
started. All right, so you should be able to see my screen now. Embracing AI. I was looking, I was going to have ChatGPT make me a vision, image of, us, somebody hugging a robot, but I didn't have time to do that as I was getting ready for this. But maybe we can do that in one of the demos that I'm going to do for you all. But that's what I want to talk to you all about today. Really that ability to take this new technology that's available to us and embrace it however it works best for you, right? There's no must or should or have tos with this or any other technology. But what I try to do in this program is sort of give you a smattering of different ways and best practices of things that you can do with it so that you can take what you're doing today, especially as many of you are entrepreneurs, so you are wearing all those many hats and you're working as, financial professionals with clients, so you're providing services to help you do all of those things but a little bit better, a little bit more easily, a little bit with less repetition and more automation, with more creativity. And that's what these tools are very helpful to us to do. So, whoops, let me advance here. Oh, sorry, guys. This is deciding to give me, here we go. All right, everybody always asks me first off, can I get the slides? Yes, you can get the slides and a bunch of other materials that I've pulled together for you. So if you either use the QR code or you can just go to my website and you'll find on the menu AFDS, click on that. You'll find everything there for you. And as a little added bonus, I had AI create a crossword puzzle for you all with the answers pulled from the content of this program. So at the end, if you want to go and try and do the crossword, you'll get a little idea. Now, that may seem like funny, but one of the things that I found is I do a lot of trainings and things like that. And it's actually, I've gotten a lot of feedback from attendees that they really like the crossword because it helps them pull together a lot of the threads from the program by thinking it through, and it just makes it a little fun. So if any of you do trainings or work with students or just do programs a lot, here's one more thing you can do with ChatGPT and friends. All right, so those are the materials. Again, you can always go to the website. It's just Susan E. Guthrie. If you go to susanguthrie.com, you'll find a nice lady who sells CBD and is tired of getting my emails and outreach. She won't forward them to me anymore. She's a very nice lady, but she's very tired of me. So go to susaneguthrie.com and you'll be able to find everything. There's also a lot of other materials there for you just to make everyone aware that I have my book is there free. Feel free to download it. A lot of what I do these days, I'm not practicing as a mediator or an attorney anymore. I now work with professionals who are growing businesses. And so a lot of the content that I put out there is for the entrepreneurs of the world, for the solo or small practitioners, for the practitioners who want to up level their business. So the book's there, the journal's there, it's free. The podcast is there, it's free. My newsletters, the practice building tip of the day, it's free. Feel free to go help yourself to anything. I also am excited. I have my new book coming out. It's due to my publisher next month. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. It should be out by the end of the year, and it's called AI Powered Professional Services. So it's going to be a deeper dive, much deeper, obviously, than what we'll talk about today, but it's written as a very practical manual for people who are in professional services businesses. So not just mediators, not just lawyers, but anyone who is providing professional services. It's going to be that deeper dive into that. So something to look forward to. Now, the other reason why I have this slide in here is I wanted you to know about all these things that are available if they're helpful to you. But I also want to point out that most of these things are things that I create, that I've created in, say, the past year or so. This is a lot of the things that I have done, and I would never have gotten this much stuff done without using my friends' AI tools. AI tools have upped my productivity, upped the level of what I'm able to do and provide, and the number of clients I can work with in coaching and consulting, putting out more content. All of that has been up leveled. And I won't say I'm not using it to write these things or create these things for me. These tools are my partner in creating these things. And so it's up leveled what I, Susan, have been always trying to do and allowed me to do more of it. And I think do what I do, but do it even better. And that's what I want to help you all do. So the program today will be, I want to start out with some best practices with AI, because I know after talking to so many people in doing these programs, in fact, in the last year, I've done over 70 programs along the lines of what we're doing today. It's by far my most requested program, is coming in and sort of helping people get going with AI, learning how to use it in a practice manner. But I know one of the biggest bars to adoption is the fear around what this technology exposes us to professionally, things like breaches of confidentiality, bias, et cetera. So I'm going to give you some best practices of working with AI, and also just correct maybe some of the ways that people have been working with it that aren't the best ways to work with it. So we'll start there. And then I found the biggest wow factor is to just start doing some demos and just showing you what you can do. So for the person who said, not sure what I can do with it, not sure how it would help my practice, I'm going to show you some of the ways you might consider using it. And one of the things that I found is, even if I show you something that you're like, well, I wouldn't ever use it for that, it may still spark an idea for you of a way you might use it. So I'm going to go through a bunch of different demos. Then I'll show you one particular financial AI tool. So a new one that I've found that is specific to financial professionals and uses AI. I also have included in the materials for you a list of some other AI specific financial tools for you to check out. I will tell you, I'm not a financial professional. Obviously, as a divorce attorney and then divorce mediator, I have a good solid knowledge of finance, but I have also always enjoyed working with my financial colleagues and have always had a financial professional whenever possible involved in both my divorce representation cases and then certainly when I was mediating. So please, look at these tools, make your decisions about them, but they look fantastic. And then hopefully I always try to leave time at the end for some questions and answer sessions so that you have an ability to sort of think through this, see where you might want to go with it, and then discuss any of the final takeaways. All right, so let's get started. First things first, this is what I was just alluding to, is that what I've found is when I talk to a lot of people, they say, well, Susan, I tried it out. I went to ChatGPT or one of these LLMs, large language models, and frankly, I was underwhelmed. I asked it a couple of questions. it gave me, I mean, pretty good answers, but not anything more than I couldn't have come up with or probably done in a short period of time myself. And I just don't get what the big deal is. And I found that the problem is our brains are trained incorrectly to work with these tools. And so we need to retrain our brains about how we work with this technology because it is not like any other technology that we have ever worked with, but we tend to think of it as this one, Google. So think about how many times in a day you do a Google search. I mean, how many times do we have a question in our brain and go, well, I don't need to wait for an answer to that. I'll just Google it. In fact, Google, right, has turned it into I'm going to do a search for this. We use Google as if that's a term, a verb. So our brains, in fact, our entire system of working with technology is based upon Google and Google searches. And that is not what AI tools are. Yet when we put our fingers on the keyboards and see something that looks like a search bar, a prompt bar looks very much like a search bar, we treat it the same. So Google is a golden retriever, a Labrador retriever. I like the analogy because it gave me an opportunity to put a cute puppy in my presentation, which I don't often get a chance to do, but it's actually the perfect metaphor because Google is a retrieval system. Google retrieves an answer for you. You ask it, you throw a ball, it retrieves the ball. You ask it a question, it retrieves the answer. It's a one and done sort of option. You don't then follow up with it. You can follow up with another search, but whoops. Sorry, don't know what happened to my slides here. There we go. You can follow up with another search, but it's starting from scratch. So an example of a Google search prompt is give me 5 ways that I can grow my business. So this would be the type of prompt in an AI tool like ChatGPT that I see most professionals that I work with starting out with. They put their fingers on the keyboard and they're like, I want to grow my business. I'm going to say, give me 5 ways I can grow my business. It's a very much a give me a certain set answer, retrieve information type setting. Our golden retriever, our Labrador retriever approach. What I want you to do is shift your thinking to the wise old owl in the library that you're going to sit down with and have a conversation with. And you're going to talk to him about what's going on with your business, what's happening so far, what you want to grow. And you're going to have this chat on a variety of different topics that goes on that's going to help you in your intellectual quest. It's going to be a very different process than throwing a ball and having the puppy bring it back to you. You're going to settle down here with your cup of tea and this cute guy that was AI generated based upon. So what I did is I took this prompt, I put it into ChatGPT and said, please create an image to accompany this description. And it came up with this guy who I thought was pretty cute. I use the image generation quite a bit for social media. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as an example of the brain shift, this is what an AI tool search prompt looks like. You can see it's a great deal more nuanced and given a great deal more context of what's going on here. It's not just give me 5 ways to grow my business. It's I'm a financial divorce specialist and I want to get more clients. I already have a website, a blog, and a LinkedIn profile, but I'm not sure how to use them effectively, or I'm not sure I'm using them effectively. Please help me come up with ways to promote my practice in a way that feels authentic, right? People worry about using these tools that it's going to sound like someone else wrote things for them. So I want it to sound authentic and helpful to people going through divorce. I'd love tips on what to post, how often, and any tools that can make this easier for me. So you can see there's a lot more context, a lot more nuance to what's going on, a lot more specificity about your situation. Certainly not everything, because you don't have to give it everything, but it's giving you a lot more information to start that conversation with your wise old owl. And in fact, when we get to the demos, we'll run this for you so that you can see the difference between the two. But I did want to first hit on, well, first we'll start with the AI tools. So the difference here, the mindset shift here that you need to be making is, instead of it being a retrieval system, every time you sit down with these tools, think of them as your thinking partner that's going to help you, the human in the room, the one with the ideas, the one who is going to take what is generated in this conversation out into the world. It's your thinking partner in this creative process between two collaborative partners. It's your partner in all this. So as you're ruminating on things that you might do, Chat GPT or Google Gemini or Claude, those are your friends who you're going to sit down and work out a solution with, or work out next steps with. So you do want to keep in mind some best practices when you are using these tools professionally. You can use these tools in your life all day, every day, as I mentioned. It has helped me figure out what I'm going to make with the celery, chicken breasts, chicken stock, and potatoes that are in my refrigerator. It's given me 5 recipes that I could make for dinner with what's in there. It can help you plan a vacation beautifully and come up with daily walking plans. It can come up with a lot of things that you can do that don't carry a lot of risk, right? But when you're using them professionally, there's risk. We have ethical duties. We have things that, where there's not much difference between lawyers, mediators, and financial professionals. We all have ethical duties that we are bound to comply with for our clients. And technology is a threat, not a threat, but it exposes areas where we have challenges that we need to meet. The number one that I hear most often is that client confidentiality. And we're right to be worried about it. This is this huge like black hole that you're taking information and putting it into. We can't do that. So we have to always be protecting client confidentiality, especially when you're using the free or low cost. I call ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. They all have paid versions that are $20 a month. I call that low cost. I had one of my clients who was a financial professional who shall remain unnamed, but they thought that by paying $20 per month, they were getting a secure platform for client financial information. And I had to tell them immediately to stop using it that way. They could not upload clients, financial records, et cetera, to ChatGPT's $20 paid version. There are paid versions. Those are the ones that we'll talk about later in this program that do have security levels that make them safe to use with that, not ChatGPT and those guys. So you can't put in personally identifiable client data. You can't upload their direct bank statements or things like that, but you can anonymize. You can create prompts that are generic in terms, but have enough information to still give you valuable information. We'll show some of that. But you can't put in that client confidential information. Another best practice is to verify and interpret. You do not automate the judgment of these tools. So one of the biggest problems with these tools, if any of you have used them, they churn out answers so fast and so well that they sound like geniuses. I mean, you think you're getting like, oh my, this must be right. It sounds so good. And it's stated in terms that are authoritative, and it states it all. It seems like, well, this must all be true. Absolutely not. Hallucinations are definitely being reduced. The hallucinations that existed in these tools back when the ChatGPT lawyer ended up on the front page of the New York Times back in March of what was that 2023. Those hallucinations don't happen as much these days. They're much reduced, but they still happen. It still will make things up. It still doesn't always have all the context and nuance that it needs to give you the correct answers. One of my best examples of that is I was using ChatGPT or one of them to help me create an intake form for a trauma-informed mediation. And so I said, please create a client intake questionnaire that asks questions that will help me to know if clients require any trauma-informed modifications to their process. And it created a wonderful questionnaire on its first try. And then you get to this one section in the questionnaire it created, and it said trauma-informed questions right at the top of it. And then it had these wonderful trauma-informed questions. Do I want to tell my potential, mediation clients that I'm seeking trauma-informed questions? Does that layer in some information that's problematic into the process? Yes. And I know that as the mediator, I know I don't want to tell them they're traumatized before they've even started their mediation. I want to know if there's some trauma related to their process. I don't want to introduce it into their process. But if I had just taken that questionnaire as ChatGPT gave it to me, because it gave me what I asked for, trauma-informed questions, then I would have been putting something out there that was probably not appropriate to put out. So I had to verify and interpret and say in my next iteration, you know what? Great questions, but I don't think it's appropriate to introduce the idea of being traumatized into this process. I want to be more neutral in this. Could you find some additional ways or suggest some ways that these could be asked in a way that's not introducing trauma into the questioning, right? So that's just one example. And we went on, by the way, to continue to work back and forth. I think we probably went back through maybe 3 iterations of my prompting, asking for changes, and we came up with a very good version at the end that was very usable and didn't have any of these things that set off my practitioner alarm bell. You all have practitioner alarm bells as well. Everything has to be filtered through it. Also, use it. I mean, it's wonderful for automating things, and you'll find a million ways that you can automate. You're probably already doing it. How many people out there use something like Calendly to have clients book meetings with you or book your meeting? Calendly, or yeah, I mean, I found it about 2 years ago, saved my life, saved my sanity. It uses AI to do all of that. I mean, you're already using, it's automating the process. It does the follow-up. It sends the Zoom link. It sends automatic reminders. That's all automation. It's all using different levels of AI and machine learning. But if you're using the AI to educate both yourself as well as your clients, you're going to get a higher and better use out of it. So using things to enhance your client experience and make the process better for the clients. An example, that questionnaire I was just talking about. When I work with mediators who want to provide a trauma-informed mediation experience for their clients, but don't know quite how to do it, working with these tools so that the mediator can become more educated about the needs of the clients, and then work with the tool to find out how to help the client. So, right, you get the answers back from that questionnaire, and then you say, hey, ChatGPT, I've got the questionnaires back from the clients. Here's what they've identified under the questions that we know are trauma informed. What are some ways I might help them and modify my process to make this process better for them, right? So you all also deal with financial information and concepts, trying to put those into terms that clients can better understand, or in a variety of different ways that clients can, sometimes clients understand things better when they are in the form of a chart or in a pie chart or a graph or something like that. You can take information and put it into these and turn it into a visual aid in a matter of seconds. You can use Notebook LM and turn it into a 10-minute, turn your written report into a 5 or 10 minute podcast style verbal conversation for them to listen to. People learn and take in information in a variety of different ways. So as professionals, we can supply our clients with a variety of different formats to hear our expertise and hear what we're there to help them with. Also, I talked about it a little bit, but the prompt is everything. The prompt is absolutely everything with these. The more generic your prompt, the more biased your prompt, the more an example of a biased prompt. Somebody asked me this the other day. So I was doing a prompt to do option generation in a mediation, and we were talking about the marital residence, right? We always talk about the marital residence. Almost every divorce, we're going to have option generation around what's going to happen with the house. So I was putting in information and I was working with the husband and the wife in that particular case about what information we wanted to put into ChatGPT's prompt to get the options out. And of course, husband wanted to sell the house, wife wanted to keep the house. So, and they wanted that information in the prompt, which was appropriate, but I didn't put in the husband wants to keep the house because he wants the money out of it. The wife wants to keep the house because she wants the kids to be in the same school district. We made that information more generic and said one party wants to maintain the residence for stability, one party wants to liquidate the residence for financial liquidity, right? So I put it into more neutral terms. But we have to think about the inherent bias that we might be putting in when we put those prompts in. We have to think about what we might be setting up for with an answer as we put those prompts in, right? So by putting this information in a neutral fashion, if we're looking for neutral options, became a part of it. Now you may have less of that. You may be looking for client specific one party or the other. If you are an aligned professional, aligned with the one party or the other, you may be wanting that. So your prompt might look different. Give me the arguments for, this party's position, which is this. But catch the nuance of what I'm trying to say there. It all starts with the prompt and how you put the information in. And always remember, it doesn't all have to go into that first prompt because this is a conversation. You always have that ability to continue to follow up with more. It's always a conversation. And then best practices as you start using these tools, test and tweak before you really rely on these things. So know each one works a little bit differently, comes up with a little bit different information. You are all professionals. So to the extent you are using them in a professional manner, use them with the tool and do it yourself the old fashioned way and make sure that they're matching up. I think you're going to find that this version is definitely faster. The AI version will definitely be faster, but is it as good as? Is it better? How does it vary? Know how these are varying from you working as an individual without its assistance, because its highest and best use is to make you supercharged. That's what I always want. It's like putting on your superhero cape to make you even better at what you do. All right. So there are a lot of things we need to be aware of anytime that we integrate a technology into our professional world. We all learned that during the pandemic, right? Suddenly, how many people here were online practitioners before the pandemic? Okay, so some of you were. So you'd already been through some of the challenges of working in an online platform. A lot of my colleagues in the legal and the mediation world were not working online prior to the pandemic and had to learn things about confidentiality online and the challenges of confidentiality online. Learn about the challenges of Zoom bombing that, could happen. All the things that you probably dealt with before. And those of you that went online during pandemic, you learned how to deal with all those challenges and what they were. and came up with ways to deal with them. It's the same with any technology that you're going to add. And make no mistake, I mean, one of the things that I've really enjoyed in this later part of my career is becoming a more technology adopting professional, because I've found that technology really can be the thing that enhances us and sets us apart and lets us do what we do, but do it better. But I have also learned anytime you add a technology, you add challenges and you need to come up with things. So what I did is I've come up with something called the Aspen Protocol. It's awareness and education, strategies and protocols to deal with the challenges. You need to prepare and practice in using that technology. You need to educate again and again, over and over. It's not a one and done of learning. And you need to provide notice to your clients and give transparency that you're using these technologies. It's the same process. You did it during the pandemic. You'll do it when you adopt AI, and you'll do it when you start using holograms or doing virtual reality meetings with your clients, because that's coming around the corner. Or I just was at the ODR forum out in London last week, and they were talking about those things that they're going to like put into your skulls, like Elon Musk is doing, that make us purportedly smaller. Holograms, I'm out. They're actually pretty cool, Ryan. I've actually, and I've done a virtual reality practice mediation. It's actually, it's remarkably good, because all those things that you didn't think you liked in a virtual, say, I mostly work with mediators, right, or lawyers, where you can't see the nervous tapping of the knee under the table, or you don't get the full body language. Virtual reality or hologram, you get all of that. It's like they're in the room with you. So the technology is going to come whether we want it or not. There's no stopping it. In fact, the one thing the pandemic did is took all the venture capital money and shifted it here into this realm of technology and professionals. So the technologies will continue to come. How we deal with them as professionals is where we have choice. If you want to integrate technologies, the Aspen protocol is my way of doing it. And I've put a white paper I wrote on that in the materials for you, so that you can go I could do an entire, hour and a half on that alone. But I wanted to do more of the fun stuff with you, because the ethical stuff is important. By the way, you can use these tools to help you with the ethical stuff. Who can help you be aware and get educated, come up with your strategies and protocols, prepare and practice, get more education, and come up with your notice and your transparency for your clients and those that you work with. Yeah, these tools, they can come up with all of that for you. You can work with them to come up with the protocols for dealing with, confidentiality in using AI tools, the notice that you're going to put in your agreement for services, etc. All right. So before we dive into the demos, just some of the key areas for impact. So again, to that question of what can it do for me? Almost unlimited what it can do for you, but as a business professional, it can help in a variety of different ways that are both what I call out of the room and in the room. So the out of the rooms are where I suggest starting. So if you're a newer user of AI tools, consider these as the place to start. Attracting clients. Not too many service professionals, which is what we all are, have too many clients. We're always looking to keep that stream going. So we need to be doing our marketing, branding and outreach, providing proof of our subject matter expertise. Those are all the ways that we bring people to our table. It's a constant stream of things that we need to be doing. That is one place where these tools excel. Marketing and that stuff that most of us don't like to do, they do it very well. They also help you in building a competitive edge. We live in a world where there are more and more people who do what we do. That doesn't mean that there aren't enough clients to go around, but we all want to get the right clients. So it can help us do market research. It can help us to analyze our practice statistics, something that my financial professionals usually really love. It can help us set ourselves apart by being able to say that we are tech forward and cutting edge. One of the things that we know about divorce is the divorcing population is two things: gray in one group, don't love the tech as much, and then millennials and younger. They expect you to have the tech. They want you to have the tech. They don't want you to waste their time and money doing things the old fashioned way. They're looking for people who are tech forward and cutting edge, and that's only going to increase as the population moves forward. They also can help you within your practice, but outside of the room, in automating your tasks and communications, streamlining your process and procedure, and curating and personalizing your client experiences. I used the example of the trauma-informed mediation, but all different kinds of ways that you can, as professionals, we have this tendency to do what we do and do it over and over again, right? We have a process that we go through with our clients. I would guess that you all have sort of an onboarding for clients, an intake process with your clients, a review process with your clients, a process where you're providing whatever your service, your recommendations, your expertise, and then an offboarding. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this. Please give me some feedback. Refer me to others, right? We all have this process that we go through, but we tend to work on that over a period of time, get it into a set sort of rhythm, and then stick with it come hell or high water for the rest of our lives, because that's the way we've always done it. And we don't really curate our process for the client. But one of the things that we know from a business side of things is clients are looking for a client experience. Yes, they want us to have a process for them, but when it's curated to them, they tend to respond to it better than when it's just what we've always done. All right, and then it has the ability in different ways to help us in the room, whatever our room might be, with the clients. It can help us by summarizing information, brainstorming and evaluating, and doing summaries and agreements. It can help with drafting, organization, and negotiation. All of those things that you're doing with your clients or helping them prepare to do. It's excellent at those things and can help us there. So, any questions before I jump into some demos? Let me take down the share here. I was going to jump in, but any questions or anything? I haven't been sort of monitoring the chat because I get so focused on looking at your faces to see if anyone's listening, if any of this is making any sense. All right, nothing? All right, we'll jump into some demos. I like doing the demos. That's the fun part. So I'm now going to share my screen. And I told you I would start off with the Google prompt versus the prompt for is more AI tool. Oh, Bettina?
Hi, sorry, I'm
Hi.
really late to the party.
Oh,
Sorry about that. And I'm totally intrigued by the AI. I'm befriending it lately. Uh, but for example, I drafted an agreement and then the software gave me grief, and I'm like, oh God, it's 18 pages and I had two versions and I didn't know what. And I thought I should enter it into AI to tell me what's the difference between them. But then everybody I listen to says don't put any real good stuff like account numbers, and which is part of an agreement, personal information in there. Then the same for tracing. I think you're mediating as well via financials. We probably do, a lot of my colleagues, including myself, do occasionally tracing of stuff.
sure.
So I shouldn't upload, I guess, any credit card statements to filter it through. So I would be interested in is there a way?
Yes. Yes, and it's an excellent question. And the number one reason why people are afraid to use these tools, I find, right? You're worried about breaching those ethical duties that you have, and you should be,
Yeah.
That is a concerned practitioner.
I'm
No, you,
even kicked Dropbox to the curb because it's American, right?
yeah.
So I'm even worried about where do I store my data. So it's just so difficult.
Well, I'll give you a spoiler alert. After the demos, I have a program to share with you all that is created for you. It is for financial professionals. It is behind a paywall and has cloud and SAS encrypted security, so that you can actually connect the bank's accounts and the financial accounts directly to this program, and it will suck all the information. That's my very technical description. It sucks all that financial information onto those spreadsheets you all love so much, and all of those, different formats. It will do the tracing. It will help you pull all of that together, and it's created for you all to be able to use with your financial clients, and it provides you with a cloud. It
Okay.
is where that information. So I'm going to tell you about that one. I have no affiliations with any of the tools that I talk about, by the way, everyone. I want you to know that. I'm not promoting any of them. I go out and find new tools are coming every day, and they are there specific, they're the ones they create are there to deal with these specific issues per industry. But when you are using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, absolutely no, you cannot upload
Yeah. No, no.
client financials. You can anonymize, and I'll show you a demo of what that looks like to do some brainstorming or modeling or things like that. But you would have to go through and take the black pen, or have your assistant do it, but take the black pen to go through and take out all client identifying information if you wanted to update, which may defeat the purpose of speeding things up, except what you're able to do with that information once it's in there, it is, potentially you might still want to do it. It would depend on how much you have to do. But I will
Well,
go more into that when we go. I
awesome.
also saw somebody asked a question about whether there's a difference between the paid versions of ChatGPT and Friends and the free versions. The main difference is amount of use. So, for example, for someone like me who really truly uses these all day, every day, I very quickly would hit the end of my amount of use per day on those platforms. I would get to a point where I'm in the middle of a conversation with the tool, and it would say, sorry, your time's up. See you tomorrow. So I pay the $20 per month for ChatGPT and Gemini, the two I use the most often. And I'll explain as we're going through why I use them most often. As you are starting out, the capabilities are relatively the same. I would say try them in the free version if you're just starting out. Unless you're using them as much as I do, you'll get an ability to get a smattering of experience with them. And then when you find the ones that you like, then you can go ahead and pay that $20 a month. You can pay it on a monthly subscription. So if you decide you don't want it, you just stop. You just cancel it, and it won't charge you again. Okay, I'm going to do some of the demos, and as we're going along, keep your questions, and I will definitely keep time at the end, but I want to make sure that we get to some of the demos just because they're fun, and let's have a little fun while we can. So let me get to, sorry, I'm looking for, I think I'm going to share this, but then I'll get to Claude. All right, here we go. This is Claude. This is Anthropic's version. Claude is kind of known as the accurate one. That's what they pride themselves on. We're going to be as accurate as we possibly can. It's always a race between the big three as to which one's the best one, and that changes by day. And it really depends on what you want from them. That's why I do say try them all, see which one resonates with you. There's so many. I'm going to talk about the big three, but there's so many even more than that out there. But you can see I have the free plan of Claude. You just sign up, you open an account with it, it knows who you are. So let's ask it that first question. Give me 5 ways that I can, I think I said grow my, I'll give it this service provider business. All right, so that's a Google retrieval type prompt. All right, so let's see. And by the way, this is always slower when I'm doing it in a Zoom meeting like this because the Zoom is sucking some of the power. So we would have had an answer already, but you can see it's still pretty fast. All right, so 5 ways to grow your service provider business. Here are 5 effective strategies to help expand your service provider business. Develop a referral program. So give people, if you can, figure out some sort of incentive that rewards existing clients or colleagues. It doesn't know that about you because it doesn't have any context, but develop a referral program, expand your service offerings, right? Don't just do one thing, take those same skills and do 5 things for people. Implement your strategic partnerships, invest in digital marketing, and create scalable service packages. So those are all really good ideas. They're all things I would be exploring with clients that said to me, Susan, help me expand my client base. But it's still pretty generic. It's still somewhere that you're going to want to go a lot deeper than that because it has no idea who you are, what you do, or anything. So let's try the, sorry, pulled up the wrong one. I have my prompts here. So just so you know, I have all the prompts that I'm going to use here are in the materials. So if you ever want to go run any of them, feel free. I give you all the prompts that I'm using. It's back on the website page. So let me get back to our buddy here and Claude. And I'm going to open up a new chat. I call them chats. Chat GPT has trained me because that is the one I use most often, and it was the one that was out. All right. So this is for some reason it spaced oddly, but this is the more nuanced and giving more context type of prompt that you would want to use with your wise old owl when you sit down with them. I'm a financial divorce specialist and I want more clients. I already have a website, a blog, and a LinkedIn profile, but I'm not sure how to use them effectively. Please help me come up with ideas to promote my practice in a way that feels authentic and helpful to people going through divorce. I'd love tips on what to post, how often, and any tools that can make this easier for me. All right, let's see what she has to say, or he has to say, or it has to say about this. All right, so now we're getting a marketing strategy for a financial divorce specialist. So it's going to be much more specific than that last one we get. Thanks for sharing about your practice. Always very polite. As a financial divorce specialist, you have a valuable service to offer during difficult times in their lives. I'll help you develop an authentic marketing approach using your existing platforms. So it's now saying, good, you've got the start. What can you do with those to take them next level? So website, create a clear client journey section showing your process. What was I just talking about? It doesn't know I was just talking to you about your client process, by the way. It's not in the background, despite what people say, listening to the program that I was just giving to you. But notice what it's saying about the client process. Right? Create a clear client journey section showing your process. Add your testimonials, anonymized, include a free downloadable resource like 5 financial steps, right? It's going to go through. Here's what you can do with your blog. You should publish 2 to 4 times a month with evergreen content. Topics could include, it's giving you some ideas. Here's what I think you should do on your LinkedIn. Here's authentic marketing approaches. Focus on education rather than sales. Partner with complementary professionals. Host free webinars. Consider starting a newsletter. Use client stories. Then it asks you the conversation starters. This is one of the things that it does that I think is so helpful. Would you like me to develop any of these ideas further, or would you prefer more detailed content suggestions for a specific platform? Let's pick one. Let's say I want to build out the blogs. Let's focus on the blog articles. I am not consistent in getting those out. I find it hard to come up with good ideas, and no one ever seems to actually read them. Please help. I hear that complaint a lot. I don't know why I'm doing blogs. No one actually ever reads them. No one ever has said to me they hired me because of my blog. Probably it wasn't just because of your blog, but you really don't know, and they may not know. All right. Blog content planning system. Here's a topic generation strategy. Instead of thinking, right? And do you see what's happening here? We're having a conversation where I'm giving it a problem of mine, and it's giving me potential solutions to my problem. It's giving me a topic generation strategy so that what I have told it I find difficult, coming up with good ideas for my blogs, they're like, hey, let's approach it in a different way. How about we start with a client FAQ series, which can take the questions you're repeatedly asked and turn that into articles. Do financial timeline posts, what to know financially at 3, 6, and 12 months post-divorce. Seasonal financial topics. It's always a season, right? And we always talk about the weather. So tax season, back to school financial planning, year-end reviews, legal updates, case studies, content calendar template, making your content more discoverable. It's now going to the problem that I said, I don't think anyone's reading my blogs. Well, let's work on that. We're going to do optimization tactics, research relevant keywords, use free tools like Answer the Public or Google's People Also Ask. Improve your headlines. One of my favorite questions to ask it is, give me 5 clickbaity titles for my blog post. I want title. If no one clicks on it, it doesn't matter how good your blog is, right? So I ask it for clickbaity ones, and it gives you 5 options that you can select from. Add subheadings for scannability. It helps with people discovering it. Promotion strategy. You can see this has been 2 prompts, and we now are deep into how to create a blog series with a bunch of different ideas. You can go deep dive and continue to go with this. Love it. Let's dive into the FAQs. Give me 10 FAQ topics for articles. You can misspell, it can figure out what you're doing. You don't have to go back and correct your typos. I will say, I know Sam Altman recently said that saying please and thank you to ChatGPT is costing millions of dollars, but I do tend to be polite to these bots because I think social media has taken us to a level where we're not that polite with other humans on social media. So sometimes we forget to do it in person, and I don't want to do the same thing with these. All right, so here's our 10 financial divorce FAQ topics, 10 topics in your FAQ series that are practically good to go for you. You now just have to build them out, which, by the way, these tools can help you do. But what financial documents should I gather before filing for divorce? How is retirement divided in divorce? So what are the tax implications? You could be more specific and say, in Canada, will I lose my health insurance after divorce? What are my options? What happens out to our shared debt during divorce? It's probably giving US centric answers because it knows I'm located in the US. The other thing is more you work with them, the more they get to know you, and the more they will know what you are doing, right? Like where you are, what you do. The one that I use most often, you'll see ChatGPT knows that I have 2 different podcasts, and it can tell from the tenor of the question I ask which podcast I'm asking for information on or for help with. It can tell when I'm talking about a conference, which conference that I'm talking about based upon prior conversations or programming questions that we've talked about. But you can see that in this conversation that I'm having with ChatGPT or with Claude in this particular case, it can help me to build it out. Now, if you want to do this first one, you can actually just say, please build out a outline for number 1 and give me 5 clickbaity titles for the blog. And by the way, it never gets tired. You'll get tired way before it does once you start to go down this rabbit hole. All right, full outline of what financial documents should I gather before filing for divorce. Do an intro, personal financial records. Now, you don't have to go with what it says here. You may think one of these is not that important and something else might be important. But instead of you having to go through and find your information or even jot down your thoughts, you just now have a place to start in writing this. Section 2, banking and investment accounts. Section 3, property and asset documentation. Section 4, debt and liability records. Section 5, insurance and estate planning. Digital financial footprint. Conclusion. Here's our clickbait style titles. The divorce document checklist that could save you thousands. Divorcing? Gather these 27 financial documents before your spouse does. The financial, now you may not want them that adversarial, you may not, but they definitely would work on clickbait. The financial paper trail your divorce attorney is praying you've kept. Right? Hidden money in divorce, the documents that reveal everything. Divorce proof your finances, the ultimate document gathering guide. You can tone those down, you can ramp those up, you can throw them out, you don't have to use them. But you guys are the financial professionals. On the list of things that you should collect, how did it do? I mean, I can tell you from my list of when I was a divorce attorney, it's pretty close to what I might have had in there. Kind of looks like our initial request for discovery. I didn't tell it any of this. So, now your blog is practically there. Now, I'm just going to say, you can ask it to write the article. Now, I'll show you something that will make that better, but here's one of those things that is a personal choice for people. So here it's writing it for you. By the way, it's writing it in a format where you can just instantly download it. So see, that's what it's done is it's switched to 2 separate platforms. Over here is the article just writing itself. And then I can click on this and it'll be either a Word document or a PDF that I can take, or you can just cut and paste from here. Obviously, you would never, ever just take what it's churning out here and print that. And you probably wouldn't put your name on it, at least without saying created with the assistance of Claude or AI tools. But if it is a good product that you can personalize by going through and updating it, you can decide whether that's a good product to put out there or not a good product to put out there. When I speak to my legal colleagues, my judges and my attorneys who are aghast at the idea of having ChatGPT draft a letter or draft a brief or draft a decision, I point out to them, I was a partner in a law firm. I hardly ever drafted my motions. My associates drafted my motions. I reviewed them and then I signed them. That was perfectly acceptable practice. I'm not sure what differs by having AI draft it, me review it, and me sign it. Same thing with judges. I have a lot of clients who are judges. Do you think the judges actually sit down and write those opinions? They do not. That's why they have clerks. If their clerks draft those, the judge reviews it, and then the judge signs it. And when I point that out, you just have to decide for your own self what level of this is acceptable to you. If it's putting out content that is consistent to you and is helpful to you and to your clients, then it's your choice whether you want to write the product. You could also write this and then upload your version of it and say, this is an audience, my intended audience is clients who are facing divorce and are feeling stressed and don't know what to do. Please help me make this more accessible to them and more, better for that target audience. And it will give me suggestions and it will help you fine tune it. For those of you that draft scholarly articles or articles for journals, it's fantastic for help with those things. I'm using it right now. I'm doing one for AAML, which is the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers. And I haven't had to do footnotes and stuff like that in the format they want in ages. My buddy Google, Gemini, is great at doing footnotes, and it's been really good at helping me do the deep research and help me coming up with transitions between thoughts and talk through. So this is just one example. We could have gone in any direction with that first go round of give me ways that I can get more clients. So you can see this is one potential. It could have been working on the website. It could have been doing your LinkedIn posts. It could have been, I'm already doing all that. Give me new and exciting ideas that I'm not already doing. All right. So let me switch over to a different platform just so, because I want to show you sort of a little bit of each. And let's look for the next. We did some marketing. I do, again, just to repeat myself, marketing and that type of content is the lowest hanging fruit. It's hard to do anything wrong with those, right? It's hard to do anything that professionally is going to get you in trouble as long as you read through what you're putting out there. So if you're going to start and you're feeling nervous about using these tools, your marketing and that type of thing is where I do suggest starting. All right, let me find another one that I think. All right, so here's one that I had. So by the way, these prompts that I came up with, I asked ChatGPT to help me out because I don't practice in Canada and did not practice as an attorney nor a mediator in Canada. So I'm not 100% familiar with your family law and financial verbiage, language, right? We all have things and your laws and all that. So I asked it to come up with some Canadian specific type questions. So here's where you might use one of these, and I'll use this time, let's use Gemini, because I want to talk about why I like to use Gemini sometimes. So Gemini is Google's version of a GPT. And one of the reasons I like to use it is it has access to Google's entire database. There is a reason why Google is the #1 search engine in the world. It has arguably the best database available to it. So Gemini has always had access to it. I've also found its deep research. Again, for those of you who might be doing some writing or really wanting to go deep into topics, you may have something that you want to research that isn't high level and you really want to go and find the deeper information. Their deep research, which is available on the free version, that's what I have showing here right now, is really quite good. But let's do here, ask it to summarize the key principles from the Canadian Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines. That's something I'm assuming you all have. The SSAG, you're like us in the States, we love to use our initials for everything. But regarding entitlement and the factors influencing the amount and duration of support for a long-term marriage, e.g. over 20 years, where there are no dependent children, disclaimer, this is for informational purposes only and not legal research or not legal advice. So this might be something you're pulling together to try to get something for clients, etc. Right, so let's put that in there. Just a sec. Hold on. You're looking for a summary of the key principles from the Canadian Spousal Support Advisory, specifically for entitlement. In a long-term marriage without dependent children, entitlement to spousal support is often readily established based on the compensatory and non-compensatory rationales. Compensatory, this rationale, I'm just going to talk about with that. Non-compensatory, needs-based. In essence, the longer the marriage, the stronger the likelihood of entitlement based on both compensatory and non-compensatory, amount and duration, amount. So, right, it's given us a long, you can tell me if any of this looks correct. Anyone? It's not bad. All right. I find it does generally, you might not want to put it out there now without having reviewed it, but what you're starting to create here is a basis of information. Now, what's for a client who has been married, I'm making this up as I go along. I have no idea. I was going to ask this question, for 23 years and has not worked since children were born 15 years ago. Spouse earns $250 per year. What are some I may be asking that in a very lawyerly way. I apologize, but it's like how my brain works as opposed to yours. Or your client married 23 years, who hasn't worked since children were born 15 years ago, spouse earns 250. There are several significant factors to explore to maximize their potential spousal support recovery. Here's a breakdown. Establishing entitlement, strong likelihood, length of marriage, role during marriage, economic disadvantage, spouse's economic advantage, maximizing the amount of support. It's going through what I would expect in the States. So you're very similar here. Clients' current needs and future earning capacity. So it's a way to go through. You might be prepping for a meeting with a client. You might be, a variety of different ways that you might use this. Again, this may or may not be helpful within your process, but think about how you can use this as you are working with your clients in prepping for a meeting, in coming up with certain questions. So let's layer in client hasn't worked in those 15 years for there. I usually try not to be gender. I try to be gender non-specific. Their expertise was in book editing, which has changed significantly. All right. So just asking it continued questions. So one of the things that you can be doing is using this when you're comfortable with it with the client to ask these questions, or giving clients prompts where they can explore certain questions with these tools. That's another thing that a lot of practitioners are starting to do the more comfortable they get with these platforms, because they've found, again, that it is a good thinking partner. And what's one of the things often our traumatized and stressed out divorce clients don't do very well? They don't think very well in a lot of cases. And so these tools can help them think through perhaps proposals that they've got coming. Certain things you have to tell them if you're going to do that. Do not take any confidential information and put it into these tools. It needs to be anonymized. You have to explain to them how to do that. If they're working with their attorneys or they're taking attorney information, certainly they can't put attorney-client confidential information into these platforms, but you can give them generic prompts to help them walk through what some of these proposals might be, or what some of the questions they might have about the proposal. So here it's going into, for this particular client, given that she's been out of that workforce, here are some key areas for her to investigate, or them to investigate. Assess current transferable skills. These are the things that remain fundamental. These are things that might still be helpful. Life skills and volunteer experience. What can we dive into to get underneath this? Evaluating realistic retraining and upskilling options, bridging the gap in book editing, and it's going through all of that. So again, this is just a partner in your process and your process with your client. And I'll do one more demo just really quickly before I get to, because I want to make sure that I leave a few minutes for questions. So I wanted to use ChatGPT. So let's try. Okay, here's one that's very similar to one that I have done, but I had it created. All right, we'll use ChatGPT for this one. And this is brainstorming. And this is one of the ways that a lot of my mediators I know enjoy using this, and clients enjoy using it. And part of it is because it takes them off of the stress of being in the moment with their ex or their soon-to-be ex, and allows them to focus on what's happening on the screen. So that's another thing with these tools. When people are super stressed out, focusing them, especially if you're working as a joint, as you're working as a neutral for the two parties, can be really helpful. So here, I'll paste this in. So here's for some brainstorming. Here's giving it in very neutral terms, given the hypothetical assets, debts, house 800,000, mortgage 300,000, RRSP, John 150, RRSP, Jane 100, car 20, LOC 15, brainstorm 3 different potential scenarios for dividing the assets to achieve equalization. Consider factors like one party wanting to keep the house, briefly outline the asset distribution in each scenario. So coming up with some different potential brainstorming ideas. Now, if you were sitting and working with a client, you could say, here's what we've already thought of. What else can you think of? Or here are the problems that we have. Here it's giving us, okay, outlining asset division scenarios. Scenario 1, sell the house and split everything equally. Combine with others. So it's giving you the different ways to do it. House sale, combine with other assets, equal division, each spouse receives that. Simple. Now it's going into John keeps the house, Jane gets a buyout. And it's broken it down. And notice what it's done. It's put it into sort of a easy to read format that you can just copy and paste into a document or into onto a whiteboard, anything like that. But it's putting things into an informational format that is easier for clients to absorb. Now, why is it doing that? Because I always ask it to do that. So it knows me well enough now that ChatGPT is like, oh, Susan likes this information in a chart form because it's easier for people to understand. But if it had given it to me in paragraph form, I could just say to it, can you please put this into a chat form or into a chart? All right. And then it's giving us scenario 3. Jane keeps the house and John gets a buyout. Each scenario lets one part. And then you could go further into it. The parties are wondering what might best optimize their situation given the current high mortgage interest rates, right? You can throw in the questions, that here in the States is the thing we're dealing with constantly, right? Nobody can afford to sell their house or refinance their house. So brainstorming is a really fantastic way to use this. Now, you don't have to use it in the room with the clients, but you could certainly be using it before you meet with them or after you meet with them or on the side. Especially if they're on the screen, you could have a laptop and you could be running ideas through there. I find it really good for evaluating options. What are the pros here? What are the cons here? Here are the client's priorities. What combination of these options might best achieve as many of those priorities as possible? It can do it all faster than we can do it. And you don't present any of it as the robot is telling you what to do. You present it as options, as brainstorming, as let's ask some ideas, let's ask some questions, which leads to, that you as the practitioner sets that table for them. We're using this as a tool to try and help us optimize our thinking process. All right, so just a few more things to get to. We did our demos. All right. Great. All right. I talked about Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. And in general, I do find those to be the best tools to use for everyday use. And certainly it can be super helpful drafting emails. I use them I have a huge inbox in my emails. So I use it to help me come up with responses. That way it gets done and I do it in the moment. They're great. But there are specialty tools, and that's what I wanted you to be aware of. And they're coming out more and more. But this is one that I just found in a Google search, the good old fashioned way. Is called Validate Financial. And it's AI powered financial intelligence. It's created for financial professionals. I checked, it is usable in Canada. I know you have much higher, thankfully for you all, much higher data protection requirements, et cetera. But my understanding is that this is usable in Canada. So it has the automated data extraction from accounting systems, meaning you can hook it up to their QuickBooks account and it will suck that information in, or from financial reports. It helps to streamline lifestyle analysis, modeling, et cetera. Does all of that with AI assisted. And it has cutting edge technology and industry leading best practices, providing you with unparalleled cloud security. So for those who are saying, Bettina, I think it was you, right? You didn't know where to hold your stuff. It has SAS encrypted cloud security. So I'm not affiliated with them, and I'm not a financial professional, but from as much as I could find that I was found out about it, if I were a financial professional, I'd check them out it's validatefinancial.com and get a demo from them and just see what it can do. See if it's something that helps you. You know, the others are sort of like low level. This to me feels like, you know, this is the wave of the future. We've gotten a lot of legal ones out there that do these sort of things. Lexis and Nexus have all come out with their legal versions. So there are there's co-counsel and a bunch, but definitely the financial world is going to be having them as well. And the difference with these is these OpenAI, all of ChatGPT, all of those, they're open systems, meaning that they are open to anyone, and all the information that goes in there is open essentially to everyone. And that creates that confidentiality and security issue. These are closed systems. One, they're fed and created to meet the needs of a particular niche, in this case, financial. So the data that it goes to retrieve or get information from is financial information. It's not all the information in the world, which is God knows what's in ChatGPT and all, which is how you get more hallucinations, right? It's pulling from sources that aren't necessarily on your point. So this is more that wave of the future. There's more that's coming in the future with AI, but this is where we're at, like these industry specific type AI tools. Now, of course, you're getting a lot more with them. So they're not $20 a month. They're more expensive. So they're, you know, it becomes a matter of looking at what they can do for you. And is it worth the return on investment for the cost investment that you would put into them? Because what they hopefully are going to do by automating and streamlining is going to give you more time to be the professional and less time having to do the grunt work that we all end up doing no matter what field we're in when we do service work. All right, the other thing that I wanted to share, sorry, it's just, I've gotten myself somehow onto this. There we go. Let me just get here. All right. This is coming at us fast and furious. The way I try to stay on top of it is I get 2 daily newsletters that just talk about what's going on, new tools that are coming, things to be aware of, the rundown, and AI for work. So I just give you those. They're free newsletters. They come out every single day, and every single day I learn something new from them. So I just share them. Again, no affiliation with them. Here's one thing I just want to leave you with. The more you use these, the more ways you will find to use this technology. It is really a rabbit hole that you go down, but it's not a bad rabbit hole. As long as you keep your guardrails on there, I think what you'll find is, like me, now a year or 2 years down the road of using them, is I can't imagine not using them. Because I would never get as much done as I get done in a day. I would never be able to do all the things that I do and do them as well as I like to believe that I'm doing them. And I'm sure people would tell me if I weren't. All right, stay in touch. This is me on LinkedIn. If you have questions, always reach out, but we do have a few more minutes. If people have questions, let me take down. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to hear from people too, by the way. So as you're going through your journey with AI or anything, let me know. But any questions anyone has I know it was a fire hose of information. I can do this like all day, by the way. I've done like 8-hour programs where I just keep going because there's so much you can do with these things. But I am happy.
Yeah,
Yes, Bettina.
Salim
Oh.
in the chat is saying that he's not totally happy with ChatGPT, and he's used Perplexity, and your thoughts about what you could recommend.
Yeah, Perplexity has I would say Perplexity has had an interesting ride because Perplexity has been created. It's an AI tool, but it's a very different AI tool than ChatGPT. So that might be, you know, where the tension is here. Perplexity was created to give Google a run for its money. It wants to replace Google search with sort of like Google search plus, right? Like an enhanced Google search. So it's a different beast, essentially. Will it work along the lines, because it is a large language model, will it work along the lines of, say, a ChatGPT or something like that? Absolutely. It is AI enhanced, but it is still more a retrieval system, or intended for a retrieval system, than, say, ChatGPT, which I use mainly because I find it to be the most creative. So you can see right there the tension between the two, right? One's meant to be a retriever of information. One is there to help create from create whole cloth from different pieces. So, but that's exactly the experience I'd like people to have. Try them all. They're out there and they are free for the most part to get started with. So if you like Perplexity and it's meeting your needs, then use Perplexity. But no, I don't use just one. I have different needs, and so I use different ones for different things. And I'm always open-minded to learning about new ones. Some I will say I stay away from. I stay away from DeepSeek because it's from China, and I just choose not to put anything into their servers. So where I can opt out of using Chinese servers, I opt out of using Chinese servers. My colleagues in the tech world, not in the legal world, but in the tech world, they love it and they use it all the time and say I'm, being hysterical, but that's my personal choice. I choose not to do that. But so just like any tool that you might use, in the States, we use different, family law software, DisoMaster, different ones of those. I went from Connecticut, which is a family law software state, to California, which was a DisoMaster state. I hate DisoMaster. I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. I didn't like how your inputs were. So even though I was practicing in California, I used family law software and had to put up with everyone in the world saying to me, Susan, why aren't you using DisoMaster? But use what works best for you. Just be open-minded because they are constantly changing.
So Susan,
Bettina, yeah, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Bettina, I'll let you go.
Okay.
Okay, I saw that you offer certain courses. What would I learn there?
So the workshop that I'm doing right now starts basically, it has some of the basics of what we just did here, but then it's a much deeper dive into what you can do with these tools in practice. And because it's a workshop, we pause along the way and you will do actual exercises so that you're in the moment. It's one thing to watch me do them. I think it gives you an idea, but by far the better learning experience is you doing these things. So that's what I do in the workshops.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Susan, when you say that you found ChatGPT to be more creative, but Gemini is known for its deep research, and you say like you use them all for different things, what what kind of a challenge or project would you be, saying, well, no, ChatGPT is not going to give me that. I need to go to use Gemini, or I need to go to use Claude because it's the most accurate
Yeah,
possibly.
I don't use Claude all that often, and it's not for any dislike or like. They're harder to log on to, which you have to log in and then they send you a link to your email and you have to go to your email to get into it, and that irritates me because I can get into the other two faster. So note to them, their onboard is difficult, but so I generally will use ChatGPT and Gemini, and I do so many different things. My particular practice is very creative. I've got the two podcasts. I'm writing books. I put out a lot of content. So ChatGPT just excels at that. As I said, it's very creative. And so when I'm trying to come up with a hot topic for one of the podcasts, it's just going to do a better job. But when I'm getting ready for the interview of my expert who's going to be on the podcast, I will often use Gemini to do the research because it tends to do a better job with that. So when I want facts and statistics on, say, gray divorce, what are the current statistics on gray divorce in the United States? I'll go to Gemini for that type of information. And then the deeper layers of what are some good ways to ask my expert the questions around this? What questions might your average person who's going through divorce at age 55 have of that, right? So I bounce back and forth between the two. Often I'll have them both open on the screen. I'll cut and paste from one and put it into the other.
Okay, that's an excellent answer. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we have come to the end of our time, and a number of people have had to run out. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I hope that this has inspired people to explore this and improve how you do your work. And you know, obviously, it's something that you don't want to ignore, and so we felt it really important. And Susan was the right person to bring us all the knowledge.
Well, and thank you for inviting me, Linda. I really appreciated this opportunity. I love my colleagues in Canada. I love Canada. I'm going to Toronto in August. I'm very excited. I hope it was helpful to you all. If you have questions, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to answer questions. And I realize this is can be a little off-putting, but I truly believe that professionals who use artificial intelligence will succeed where those who do not use it will start to not fail, well, fail. I just, somebody, my colleagues in law and mediation are always asking me, is this going to take my job? It's not that AI will take our jobs. It's that the attorneys who use AI will take the jobs of the attorneys who don't use it, and on down the line, because the entire world will be using it very, very soon, and in much more advanced ways than the things I just showed you. That's really basic. It goes much deeper. So have fun with it. Don't use it in a way that threatens your career until you're feeling better with it. But go and have it plan your dinner recipe. It's done some really good recipes for me. Just open up your fridge, tell it what you've got, see what it does.
Well, that's
How
a nice
wrong can
way
it
to
go?
learn, right?
Yeah. How wrong can it go, right? What's the worst that can happen is you have a bad dinner, right? So,
Great.
all
Well,
right, everyone. Thank
thanks
you.
so much. Have a great day.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.